Hello friends, and another cold May day in North Carolina. We thought we left Kansas to avoid those chilly days, but here we are, right? This is the Urban Homesteading channel with Professor DIY, Mrs. DIY, and Elpida. Stick around for another fun episode. Today, with no plans, we are going to attempt to make a side table, night table, whatever you call them, organizer for your books and spectacles. Right?
Right.
So we don't really have a plan. We have an idea, we've seen a picture, but we didn't draw any plans, so we're going to do it as we go.
Everything's on the fly today, huh?
Everything is on the fly.
All right.
So we might fail, but stick around and see, are we going to fail or are we going to make it? Well, this is me for the future. A little bit
This
dirtier.
is future you?
It's future me
Okay.
to tell you that we were successful. This is what we built, right? And we need maybe and here's our drawer. It can work from either side. And if you think that this was really cut-offs, right? This was,
Right.
look at my shirt. There are no such thing, right? It's wood to be used.
Right.
But this was really scraps, right? We didn't buy anything for
Right.
this project today.
And it's kind of deceptive because it's a space saver, and for anybody who likes to read in bed at night, this is a very nice way to have your book. And obviously you have a little bit of storage space in there for glasses, for your watch, for some headphones, for whatever it is that you want to put in there.
As always, we're going to show you every step and tips and tricks so you can repeat this yourselves, right? So some time ago, we made this jig, and this is simply a 1x material, or a 2x material, I'm sorry, that we have dialed to be the correct dimension to have 2x material, right? So instead of calculating every time, we use this.
Right.
And we are going to do that process now. We're going to cut the pieces we have.
Okay.
Right, let's try and do it so we won't get rain.
Yeah. Rain's trying to roll in.
And Lava might need a push sticker. I don't know. Is that past half? Yes, it is, right?
Yeah. That's past half.
Resawing is a very useful process that allows you to use material that you already have but might be too chunky for your project. For example, the 2x material is just too thick for our project, so we're resawing it in exact half to make material that we can use for our project without wasting any wood. You do need the table saw for this process or a bunch saw. But anytime you use small pieces of wood, especially when you have the blade tilted towards you, it's a good idea to use something like a Reaper. Here is the Milescraft version of it that will protect your hands and will give you very good control of the wood you're cutting. Safety is very important in the wood shop.
But we got that. This is a 30 degrees or 33.
This is 30.
Okay.
And this is woodworking in the rain.
Yeah, we're starting to get a little rain here.
All right.
Here we
So
go.
we need to figure out the next step, which we don't know yet.
All right. We have our two angles cut on these pieces that we're going to put together. In order to get a really fine and very tight seam, what we've done is put tape, painter's tape on here that's going to help hold it together. And the idea is that these angles are going to be like this. And so you see how they're going to fit together here. We're going to run glue down this seam, and then we're going to put it together. And again, this tape is going to help hold that in place in the right spot so that we can then brad nail it.
Right. And you cut, in other words, the 30-degree angle in both pieces, but you do not attach them on the 30-degree angle. Can you show it? Because that actually makes a 60-degree angle. No,
Right.
do it the wrong way, yes. So you don't attach them on the angle.
Right.
You attach them on the flat spot on one,
So that the angles are congruent.
so the angle remains 30 degrees.
Right.
Otherwise, you multiply the angle by 2, right?
Right.
And then, as we said, we're going to put glue in that surface because to us makes sense. And we're going to use what, brad nails or little screws? What we're going to use?
Yeah, something like that.
One or the other.
Not both?
Only one.
And I guess very expensive glue spreading. Take your time and make sure you have good alignment here because that will determine how good your final project looks. A few minutes here will make your project look very professional and pretty much perfect. So take your time.
And as you can see, that tape helps hold that in line really well.
Okay. And now we're going to grab our brad nailer and we're going to nail it.
We'll be using brad nails, but we have to use at least the 1-inch size to get all the way through this board here into this one. The problem is we're at an angle, so going in this way, we're at a risk of not quite getting into this board enough, or coming at an angle, yeah, or coming out down here towards the end. So what we did was we laid it in a spot where it would go deep enough.
And it
into
is
this-
perpendicular to our board.
Right, and it's perpendicular to the board so that where the flat surface where the nailer would rest will not point it at an angle.
Okay. So we're going to transfer the line we just made all the way through the piece, and then we're going to probably erase it, right? So to make sure we're in the right spot when we hit our brad nails. Okay, now we're ready to brad nail. Have your best brad nailer do that. In this case, Mrs. DIY. And again, long term is the glue that is doing the heavy lifting, right? It's not the brad nails. As you can see, we do not have an even sides here, right? And the difference would be approximately the thickness of the material, which is 1.5 inches, but we cut it so it will be a little less than that, and it is dimensional lumber, so it's not perfect. So the easiest way is to measure the shortest side, which is this, right?
So from the peak to the bottom.
Right. And
then-
take that measurement and transfer it to the long side
So
from the peak to the
this
bottom.
peak to there, and then you made your mark there.
And then we're going to cut it.
Okay.
All right. Before we cut, let's double check that dimension is, and everyone be out of the way except.
Okay. So we've got this lined up with our mark. We've got the fence set, and we're going to cut off that little piece of this.
So as you notice, our saw stalled, and I think to a large degree we really need a new blade.
Okay.
Our blade is a little dull. And now, if we did it correctly, yes,
Yeah, yes.
right? And now it is the appropriate dimension. Okay, excellent.
Okay, so now that we've got the two sides the correct size this way, we are now taking this straight edge and marking both of the legs so that instead of at an angle, they will be flat, so that when we put it on the base, we'll have a flat.
Right.
Okay?
Yep. You ready?
Yeah. And that's why you don't sit in the line of fire, right?
Right. And
You
it looks
notice I was here, I was not here.
right, right. And again, it looks odd because we've got the blade at an angle, but this is what's going to make it sit flat on your table. Right?
If you do it on both sides.
Yeah.
You can see that both me and Mrs. DIY are on the side, so when something is ejected by the saw, as you are going to see here momentarily, we are not injured. It is a good practice to never stand behind directly from the blade, so any kickback or anything that might be projected from the saw is not going to hit you and is not going to injure you in any way. It's a good practice. So it ended up being 30 degrees. We measured it, but our measurement came to 30 degrees, right? So you can do it either way, it works. You can do the math or you can do the...
So now we've got a nice little A-frame.
We do have a nice little A-frame. Now the rest of the story.
The rest of the story?
Okay.
Okay.
So for our base, we found the piece and we cut it to the correct length, right? And then we cut one side at 30 degrees. So we'll show you in a moment, it will look better, right? It will follow this. And we need to do the same on the other side, right? So just for giggles, let's mark it. But what I think I'm going to do actually is be sneaky.
Be sneaky.
Yeah.
What kind of sneaky?
I need the
You need the
Fence.
fence kind of sneaky?
that kind of sneaky.
That's very sneaky,
I know.
considering you have a table saw.
I
Most
know.
people would not have seen that coming.
Well, I'm not saying it's going to work, but what I'm thinking is that if I put here this and it is everything 30 degrees, that should give us the correct cut. What do you guys think?
So what we did was we used this as our guide. We have the correct angle here. As you can see, it just continues all the way down
Yep.
at the same angle. And then over here, we needed the top part of the cut to line up with this piece, but then to go down again at the 30-degree angle. So what we did was we lined up this with the top of the blade, the top tooth of the blade, to make a line so that we knew where we needed to be. And as we move that forward, it's right on the top tooth, so we know we're in the right spot to go down to make the angle.
At the correct angle, and then we set the fence, and then all you had to do was bring it through the saw blade.
Correct.
And that's how we got these to line up.
Put it there.
Go ahead and put our A-frame there. And now we have Fantastico A-frame,
Okay.
triangular.
Triangular. So we decided to add the drawer for knickknacks, and we used a piece of thin ply. This is birch ply that we bought at the Dollar Tree, and we're cutting 30-degree angles on both sides. First we started with one side, and then you can see a little mark there. We made a mark of the width. We didn't measure anything again. I do not like measuring, as you know. We simply made a mark of the width we need, and we are going to test the fit. But other than that, this is a pretty straightforward process, at least for the base. The drawer is a little more challenging than the rest of the build, but not something you cannot handle as long as you have a way to make the 30-degree angles. In this case, a table saw is a very, very good tool to have. You can still do it if you don't have it, but it will not be as easy. And as you can see, we have angles now on both sides, and we are done having the bottom of our drawer build. Okay, after you attach it, it won't be moving.
Right. But the fit of it seems to be pretty decent.
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't mind taking a little more off,
Okay, well,
to be honest, but
can do that.
I think it's a little tight.
So we are attaching the top of the A-frame to the base. We're running a bead of glue along each edge. And as you can see, we've got some tape already aligned with the edge here so that when we bring that on, we can just bring that up and make sure that it's a nice tight seam. And here we are spreading that glue to try and prevent a little bit of the squeeze out.
With our patented glue spreader.
Yes, indeed. So again, line up those edges, bring that tape up, and you can see that helps hold it in place nice and tight. Same for the second side.
Mistake you can make here is try to be perfect. Align one side as well as you can, and the other side, even if it's a little bit off, will come aligned easily when you sand it. So do not spend too much time, because you're going to find yourself going crazy adjusting one and then getting the other out of perfection. Just do one side perfectly, and then the other you can take care later.
And then we will be able to brad nail that, and as you can see, that comes together very nicely.
So in making the drawer, we're using CA glue, and the process is we put the glue on one of the, the little short piece. It makes no difference, it's just easier. So you put the glue there, and then you're going to spray accelerator on the side you're going to attach it. Then use one of the offcuts to make sure that the angle is 30 degrees. A little bit of attendant.
The small pieces
Right.
require a little bit of sanding just to clean them up. It had a little bit of hair, like little hair from the saw blade, and the angle was a little bit challenging, I guess, with the bandsaw. And maybe it's just these little bitty pieces of like balsa type wood. It's a very, very lightweight kind of wood, and obviously pretty thin.
And it's actually from the dollar store,
Yeah.
because nothing but the best quality material here.
Right, and so again, it's going to align with this end once we get that cleaned up. So it looked a little bit rough coming off the saw, but you can take just a little bit of sandpaper and clean up the angles, clean up that side, and it'll come out just fine. And then we're going to line it up here. And you can see it's going to align very well with that end of the drawer.
It will be the same process. We're going to use CA glue.
Right.
So let's CA glue that one and then we'll do the last piece.
Okay.
Especially after resawing wood, it is critical that you sand it because as you can see clearly here, there are saw marks on our pieces and they're going to completely go away as you're going to certainly see with just a little bit of sanding. So sanding is a must.
So we use just a little bit of wood filler that is sustainable. We're not sponsored by this company. We bought this just to fill in a little bit of the space there, and then taking the top off there so that it will not be showing once we stain it. And then you can see there, that's where the little brad nails went in. And as you can see, it really fills those in and makes it all even with the wood. And then we're going to use this stain. We've chosen a dark walnut, and again, not sponsored by this company. We just like this one. That's what we're going to use, and we'll get to that in just a little bit.
Milkshake or chocolate shake. Or don't drink that.
Chocolate syrup, yeah, no. This is not chocolate syrup. This is our stain. So now all of the wood filler has dried. We've sanded it down so the surface is smooth. Stirred up the stain so that it is nicely emulsified. And
I also get to see how it will look from our stir
right,
stick.
because this is a cutoff from the piece we were working on.
It looks pretty darn good. Here in the background is the soft positive ventilation. Take care of your lungs.
All right.
Particle wood material can really send you to the hospital with lung issues. Now, because we didn't decide that we were going to stain it until now, this would be an interesting staining exercise.
Here's a little bit of in progress with the staining. You can see it's starting to come out really nicely, bringing out the green with that color.
And you can show the drawer now that can actually be seen.
And this is the drawer that's going to go inside. We put a little bit of a reinforcement here just because this is the one that's going to have the pulling on it, that direction. And as you can see, it's got that same angle. It should slide right into the space over here.
And she said should because in typical fashion for our channel we didn't test fit it. We just moved on.
Well, yeah, so we test fitted the bottom tray part of it, but we haven't test fitted it since we put the sides on. So we'll find out.
Right.
So because this piece is a little bit delicate with the thickness of the wood that we used and the angles, we have used one of the offcuts from the larger piece over here that's at the correct 30-degree angle as a support behind this so that we're not putting extra pressure on that piece of wood and potentially breaking it.
Alright friends, and here we are. This is our finished project and it can hold most standard books. It is what we said, 9 inches long, so it will hold most books actually, right? Even a longer book is just going to be bigger.
Right, it'll just hang off a little bit.
And the little shelf, it is not necessary of course, but you can put your glasses, you can put charging cables, you can put a charging brick, all kinds of little things so they do not clutter your space. But usually you will have on top of your books and how you put it in here, right?
Right.
And as I said, this is not a necessary component. You can achieve the same thing. We just think it looks a little better with a drawer.
Yeah.
Now for us, the drawer came from a single piece of plywood that we bought at the Dollar Tree. So it was not expensive at all. And the rest of it was built using scraps. And what do you think, ladies?
I like it. I think it turned out just great.
yes, we are very pleased with the outcome.
Yep.
So, our cost was zero, but what if you wanted to build it and you went out and bought things? Keep in mind, for us, that was a proof of concept. So we used dimensional lumber, right? And we really didn't do very much to it other than sanding it.
Well, we
could-
did rip it and cross
Right,
cut
but
it.
as I said, we didn't do much of it.
Right.
Ripping is not really a big deal. But I mean, we didn't even plane it. We didn't make sure that everything was the same dimension. And still, I think it looks very, very good. Now the dimensions are what? 5.5 by 9, I believe.
Yeah, roughly.
If you care for the dimensions, and all the angles are 30 degrees. I would say the most challenging part to build is the drawer.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't want to, you don't have to build. I mean, it has the same functionality. I just like the drawer a little bit, right? But it has the same functionality with or without the drawer. Now you could build this with better wood. Like I contemplated using, I have some walnut here. And this with some oil would look absolutely amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can use other wood to build it. But because it was the first one we ever built and we wanted to prove the concept, we went with what we have. We went with scrap. Again, our cost is zero, but if you were to buy this, you will need a piece of 4x6. You should buy a remnants because it's so small. So you're talking maybe $5, right? And $1 for the board from the Dollar Tree. $6, you cannot buy it.
Right.
A very, very nice piece. What did we learn, ladies?
Angles.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
There's a lot of different ways to figure out your angles.
well, was that, you think, the most challenging thing?
I think so.
And a lot of it we were figuring as we were doing it, right? For example, let me take the drawer off for a moment. But here, you need to have angles, right? And we didn't calculate those. We showed you how we did them, but we didn't measure any angle per se.
Right.
We eyeballed things and we marked things, and that's how it works. So the big angles are 30 degrees, and I really no idea how big this angle is. Do you know? Nobody knows.
No.
Well, this is our short episode for today. We hope you enjoyed it. How would you rate this project, ladies? Beginner, intermediate, advanced?
I'd say at least intermediate. We did resaw a board
Mm-hmm.
and the CA glue and making the small, very small, fine cuts
Right.
on the bandsaw. It requires some practice.
But you don't have to use the bandsaw, especially for the small parts. You can use a handsaw, a small handsaw,
Yeah.
because the parts are so small. A saw like this could cut them perfectly, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have any difficulties. Definitely the bandsaw made it faster, right?
Mm-hmm.
And would you say this is a high sanding project?
No, not a terrific amount of sanding.
And of course, if you do that for a kid's room, you can color it different colors and make it more bright, right? And there are a lot of different things you can do. So, from Professor DIY, Mrs. DIY, and Elpida, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up. If you didn't, hit the other button twice. Share, like, subscribe. Let us know, do you like episodes like this? Do you like projects like this? And if you do, let's build something together.
So it's just about it's a little bit wobbly, but I think once we get it glued in.
Yeah.
So now, do you want to talk about what we did or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, one of you usually does a better job, so
You want to explain it?
who wants to film? And we can use that piece right here.
Yeah, and you need that as well.
Okay, so why we need that?
We're
This
still
is
rolling.
an example,
Okay.
right?
So this is our example.